But this all segues nicely into the TNA media rights update. It came first from John Alba of Sports Illustrated. With TNA coming off the heels of its largest show ever in the US last month with Slammiversary, it now has its sights set on a major new media rights deal. In a previous conversation with the Takedown on SI, TNA President Carlos Silva confirmed the company was actively seeking a new media rights partner, estimating TNA's annual average value to be in the realm of $7 to $10 million per year. Since then, rumors have swirled as to when the company, which has leveraged its partnership with WWE to attain wider appeal, could expect a new deal. Silva once again spoke with the Takedown on SI and provided a timeline as to when he believes a new deal could come together. He revealed it's realistic to believe a new package could be brokered by this fall. I think Bound for Glory is a great stake in the sand in terms of us getting everything together as we look to the 2026 year and season. And so I think August will be quiet. It usually is in the media. Well, it was. I feel like that's all I've been talking about the last 2 weeks. Our fucking billion-dollar media rights deals. It ain't quiet no more. It might be quiet for TNA. But he says, I think August will be quiet, but hopefully we'll work through a few things, move the ball forward a little bit in August. And then I think in September and October, as we get to Bound for Glory, that would absolutely be the goal, to try and get it done by then. Or certainly, if it's not done, have it agreed to. The first-year TNA president acknowledged the legal process could extend that timeline, but remained optimistic that a deal could be reached by October. Rumors have attached networks like the CW, which hosts NXT, and A&E, which airs WWE-produced documentaries, that could get in on the bidding. Multiple TNA sources have indicated that while linear networks are being discussed, there are also streaming options on the table as far as negotiations are concerned. When asked directly about those two specific entities being potential landing spots, Silva confirmed that they are very much in the running. Oh, absolutely, yeah, all of those and more, where we have to navigate all of these properties that have other properties, and where they are in their renewals. I mean, it's a chessboard, puzzle pieces, when you're doing these deals. And so it's about timing. It's about who's coming, who's going, and where the slots are. And certainly our job, and I think we did it in such a big way at Slammiversary, is to keep putting out a great product that creates buzz. If it creates buzz, then properties are going to want you. Multiple independent sources tell the Takedown on SI that there have at least been discussions of, and this is the key here, that there have at least been discussions of TNA moving to a WWE-associated network, and that the company is even open to shifting from Thursday to Wednesday nights to go head-to-head with AEW Dynamite. While it was not directly indicated that the destination would be the CW, it was expressed to us that the CW's interest in the promotion is legitimate, and that some WWE stakeholders would like TNA to be part of the network. It is not clear how far those discussions have progressed, and it was stressed that nothing has been signed as of yet. Multiple sources believe WWE has some degree of influence in the TNA media rights discussions with a potential partner involved, but Silva said WWE's relationship with TNA at this juncture has not extended beyond the talent exchange and promotion that viewers have seen throughout 2025. And so it begins. The talk about competing directly with Dynamite on Wednesdays, but using TNA as a pawn to do so, is very on brand for WWE. Because for all the people who love to say, well, Tony took the first shot. Tony called Nick Khan the con man from Connecticut years ago on TV. And he called WWE the Harvey Weinstein of pro wrestling. You wanted competition, now they're competing. No, that's not what they're doing here. Tony Khan ran his mouth, and it's okay for WWE to punch him right back in the mouth if they want to. That's fine. Even though people do seem to forget that Triple H is the one that fired the first shot, technically, by calling AEW a pissant company at the Hall of Fame. But find me where Tony Khan ever counter-programmed WWE the way the WWE does to AEW. Find me any example of Tony Khan going out of his way, even if it is to the detriment of his own business, to directly compete with WWE in a way that is intended to harm the other company. Trash talking is one thing. That could be fun, right? That's fine within reason. Competing for the same talent is one thing, which is absolutely what WWE and AEW do, and TNA and every other major promotion. This is something completely different that we have not seen since WCW was around. And honestly, this is worse. This is worse. But this is a company in WWE that behaves like it has an axe to grind. It's either that or they feel directly threatened by AEW's existence. And I don't honestly believe that WWE thinks they're in any real jeopardy of ceding their market share, in the industry to Tony Khan and to All Elite Wrestling. This feels personal. When Dynamite first premiered, Triple H had one job with NXT, which was to extinguish the flame. That's what Vince McMahon wanted Triple H to do with NXT when they went head-to-head with AEW. Extinguish the flame. And he failed. Vince McMahon was not happy about that because it allowed them to gain a foothold. And since they draw from the same pool of talent, that meant that if they wanted to retain some of their existing talent or to sign new talent, they would have to compete financially, which is why you ended up hearing stories about people like fucking Dax and Cash and the Good Brother, all these people being offered, six-figure deals that were in the high six figures that otherwise, believe me, they would not have been offered. WWE was throwing money at people specifically to prevent them from going to AEW. Okay, I've talked about this before on this podcast. Around WrestleMania time, I talked about this. Nick Khan did an interview, I forget with who, and I brought up this very point. One of the biggest things that AEW did to really irritate WWE was inflate the going rates for a lot of these wrestlers. Remember the report that some people in WWE felt that, what Tony Khan offered Swerve Strickland to re-sign him was more than his value, right? Tony overpaid, and therefore he was raising the going rate for other talents to a point that just wasn't sustainable. I'm sure that annoyed WWE greatly. But with the TNA stuff, ask yourself why WWE is suddenly working with TNA after all these years. TNA's been around for over 20 years. And there were a lot of years where WWE would take their own little pot shots at them. But all of a sudden, WWE is working with TNA. Is it because they want to help TNA flourish? Of course not. WWE does not give a single fuck about TNA. Not unless TNA can benefit them in some way. So if that means propping up a company to finally pull 7,600 people for a show at the UBS Arena, something they were not able to do a single time, not in this country anyway, in its previous 23 years of existence. They finally pulled 7,600 people. If that's what it takes, then so be it. We'll prop them up. We'll send AJ Styles out there to give a rah-rah speech and sell a few extra tickets. We won't let him do a match, of course, but we'll throw him a bone and we'll let him break their attendance record. If that means propping up their world champion on NXT, so that he'll mean more when they eventually sign him away, then hey, it's a small price to pay. I love, by the way, how the same people who cried and moaned and bitched about Joe Hendry only getting 3 minutes with Randy Orton at WrestleMania. Oh, he got 3 minutes. He got dropped with an RKO. They treated him like a jobber. A lot of these people are okay with him popping out of a fucking refrigerator on NXT the other week. I find that very amusing. And if that means helping TNA get a better cable clearance so that they can move the show to Wednesdays, just to fuck with Tony Khan, then hey, what are friends for? TNA is WWE's useful idiot. Believe me, if TNA was to move Impact to Wednesdays on the CW, let's say, or anywhere, they would have moved Impact to Wednesdays. First of all, any TV deal that TNA is able to make is going to be better than the deal they have now with Access TV. It's going to get more eyeballs on the show regardless. How many more eyeballs? That's the question. I've been saying that for years. TNA will only grow to a point unless they get a fucking TV deal. And what they have with Access right now, it's better than nothing, but they need a real TV deal on a much bigger platform, a much bigger network or streaming service or whatever it may be. But having said that, if TNA was to move Impact to Wednesdays, it might take a small chunk out of the Dynamite audience, but it's not about that. AEW would still win the night. It's just about weakening them at any cost, even if that cost comes at TNA's expense. Because I fail to see what the benefit is for TNA in that scenario if they move the show directly opposite Dynamite. Like, that hurts TNA. It hurts TNA's ability to grow. That doesn't help them. Like, if you're looking at the schedule and saying, okay, we want to maximize the audience for this show. So the first thing to do is to get them on a better network. That's number one. Or again, it could be a streamer. That's number one. That's priority number one. But also, we want to get them, in a time slot or on a night, on a date where they're not in direct competition with another wrestling show. We want to maximize eyeballs on this show. But that's not what this is about. This is not about, helping TNA grow their audience as big as it can possibly be. It's less about helping TNA and more about hurting AEW, right? Because it might also hurt AEW, it's okay. And that's really all that matters to WWE, just so we're clear. There's nothing illegal about what they're doing. They're well within their rights to do so long as everybody understands what the point of this partnership really is between WWE and TNA. Like, don't be naive about this. And of all people, I will give credit to Eric Bischoff for making a good point, finally, when he spoke to Ariel Helwani a while back about why WWE is in business at all with TNA all of a sudden. Like, I do think there's another reason. It's secondary to fucking with AEW, but WWE had to pay out a $20 million settlement to MLW to settle their antitrust lawsuit last year. So it's to their benefit to play nice with TNA and quote unquote partner with them, and maybe even help them gain a foothold on, let's say, the CW or on A&E to help their cause the next time someone threatens them with any kind of antitrust claim. It's like an added bonus for them. I saw Gail Kim on Twitter the other day. She was responding to fans, and she was bemoaning the fact that the reason TNA is bleeding talent is because management doesn't give them any real reason to stay and be loyal to the company. Right? Instead, their talent looks at TNA as a stepping stone to WWE. It's because that's what they are. And the more talent that want to ultimately end up in WWE, it makes TNA a more attractive option in the interim, which Carlos Silva and his team, no doubt, are well aware of. And they're okay with that. They're okay with TNA being looked at as a stepping stone. They're okay with TNA effectively being an arm of developmental now. That is a decision that they made a long time ago. Carlos Silva has admitted that they are not profitable. Anthem knows that TNA is not a profitable company. Partnering with WWE to help get them a better TV deal where maybe they can pull, I think it's ambitious, but $10 million a year, or partnering with WWE to sell a few hundred or a few thousand extra tickets for their big shows, to them is worth it. And according to Dave Meltzer in this week's Observer, WWE has an option to buy TNA in their partnership agreement and has the right of first refusal should there be another potential buyer. He says the option is similar to when WWE had contracts with the European indies years ago, like OTT and Progress. Now, that was for content for the WWE network. Remember when they started airing indie promotions on the network? That didn't last very long because not enough people gave a shit about it, and so they didn't watch. But they had the option to buy those promotions if they wanted to buy them. They just never had a reason to do so. The end goal here is likely to buy TNA. I would say it's worth it just for the tape library. If nothing else, there's so many people on their roster right now who either came from TNA or passed through TNA. They can make a fortune just exploiting that alone. But right now, there is no need for them to buy TNA. They can get what they want out of them without buying them. They can use them as a pawn to fuck with AEW and also have a direct pipeline to their talent. And they can grab them and snatch them up first when they become free agents before Tony Khan can. And all they have to do is just prop them up a little bit. And TNA is not any kind of serious threat to their business, so they're cool with it. Now comes this report that former UFC co-owner Lorenzo Fertitta might have an interest in buying TNA, with the idea that anybody who buys TNA, if it's not going to be WWE, they would do so with the idea of being friendly with WWE. And if they're not going to be friendly with WWE, then they're not buying the company. because, again, WWE has the right to kill the deal. Lorenzo Fertitta is a billionaire, so, I mean, that could be interesting to follow. If there is smoke to the fire, it sounds like there may be. But another added benefit to all of these media rights deals that TKO has been negotiating, and they're not negotiating these deals just to spite AEW. I'm not saying that, but it definitely doesn't help Tony Khan's cause. Now, right now, AEW is on solid ground with Warner Brothers Discovery for the next 3 or 4 years. They're pulling in around $600 million on their media rights deal. They are the clear number 2 wrestling promotion in the country, if not the world, between the guaranteed money that they're pulling in and the time slots they have on TBS and TNT. But when those rights deals come up for renewal, 3 years from now is a lifetime. Like, there's no guarantee that Warner Brothers Discovery is going to want to be in the AEW business anymore. I mean, hell, Warner Brothers Discovery is being split off soon into 2 separate companies. Tony Khan is always glowing about Mr. David Zaslav, who's the head of WBD, and what a great relationship they have, and all the wonderful people that he has relationships with who work, for the company there. But if those people end up on the outs, what happens then? Right? What happens when it's time to renew? What happens if you get somebody in there who isn't a wrestling fan, who isn't an AEW fan? Paramount likely won't be an option now with their UFC deal. ESPN is off the table. I mean, if it was ever really going to be on the table to begin with, but ESPN is off the table. WWE has deals with NBC Universal. They have a deal with CW. Where does that leave AEW? I mean, we'll see where TNA lands. It limits the options that Tony Khan has outside of WBD. And WWE knows this. Tony Khan once said, and he now knows what it must have been like for Jim Crockett when Vince McMahon was counter-programming all of his big shows and was trying to sabotage his business. But he said, I've got a lot more fucking money than Jim Crockett did. He said, I'm serious. I'm not going to sit back and take this fucking shit. Those were his exact words. You'll have to excuse the man. That was the same scrum where Muffin Man had his meltdown, so Tony might have been a little on edge that night. But he was not happy. That was when WWE was first counter-programming them that Labor Day weekend. And I think also he knew about or suspected that there was contract tampering potentially going on, so he was not in a good mood, and he just went off. But if you remember, he also that night said that if and when WWE brings the fight, he'll bring the fight right back to them. And he has a very unique way, or he has very unique ways of doing that because he has a lot of money, he said. He has a lot of money to fight with. Well, we have now reached the point where he's going to have to put his money where his mouth is. I have no idea what these unique methods are that he speaks of, but if he has any, it may be time for him to show his cards. And that's to say nothing of all the events the WWE has been running up against him, like they did last month. Now comes the announcement that WWE is planning a main roster PLE on the same night as All Out, and with a main event of John Cena versus Brock Lesnar. John Pollock and Brandon Thurston broke the news on Post Wrestling on Monday that WWE will be adding a premium live event in September on the same day as AEW's All Out pay-per-view. Post Wrestling spoke with multiple sources with knowledge of the WWE event schedule who confirmed that a yet-to-be-announced PLE will take place on Saturday, September 20th in Indianapolis, Indiana. The date represents the first time a WWE main roster PLE will air the same day as an AEW pay-per-view. We've yet to confirm the start time of the WWE event. All Out is scheduled to begin at 8 p.m. Eastern. We have not confirmed the venue for the event, but some recent main roster events in Indianapolis have been staged at Gainbridge Fieldhouse, which seems to be a likely candidate. Throughout this year, NXT PLEs have been scheduled on the same day as AEW's Double or Nothing, All in Texas, and Forbidden Door shows. WWE is advertising Brock Lesnar for the September 12th and the September 19th episodes of SmackDown, which all but guarantees that he's going to be wrestling that weekend. I just love how they bring him back at SummerSlam. SummerSlam, when he walked out there, that was August 3rd. And they make you wait almost 6 weeks to see him again or find out why he's back. This is why. This is why. They want to load that show up with the biggest possible attraction. And it's not about siphoning fans away from AEW. There is not a single AEW sicko who is going to hear, oh, Brock Lesnar is wrestling John Cena that night. I guess I can't watch All Out now. That's not what this is about. It doesn't matter if they sway a single fan to watch WWE that night over AEW. I said this on TNT on Tuesday night. It's about controlling the headlines. It's about controlling the social media conversation. That's why they do it. They want to dominate the headlines. They want to drown out AEW that weekend as much as possible. This is their way of doing that. All Out will be the better show, but Lesnar and Cena will be the bigger attraction because it hasn't been done in 10 years, and this is likely the final time. That and Brock hasn't wrestled the match in more than 2 years. Even just Brock being a part of the show, even the people that hate that he's on the show and they don't like him, like, the conversation will be about Brock. The conversation will be about that match. The conversation will be about WWE. That is what they want. For better or worse, positive or negative press, that is what they want. And now we learn that WWE may be considering airing John Cena's retirement match opposite the AEW World's End pay-per-view on December 27th. Originally, they were looking at running December 13th in Boston. That would be Saturday night's main event. Either of these things would likely be Saturday night's main event. So unless they can work it out with NBC to air the match commercial-free, get ready for ads galore for John Cena's retirement match. December 13th makes more sense because Peacock is airing an NFL game on the 27th, which is going to do millions more in terms of viewers than any wrestling show is going to do that night. So, I mean, that's going to hurt AEW, but it's also going to hurt WWE if they run that night. So if WWE makes and this will be something to keep an eye on, if WWE makes the decision to run on December 27th, the only conceivable reason for them to do so is to hurt AEW. That is their goal. All of these things, these are all examples. These are all happening in real time right in front of your eyes. Their goal is not to compete. Their goal is to weaken them as much as possible. This is just another in a long line of examples of this. And it's one thing for them to willingly sacrifice viewers for Goldberg's retirement match. To sacrifice potential viewers for John Cena's retirement match shows the level of pettiness that we are talking about here. If that is what they end up doing, if that's the date they end up running. It just really demonstrates the lengths to which WWE is willing to go in this war. I mean, if that's what you would even call it, to snuff out any competition at all, whether it's competition for talent, whether it's competition for media rights. If they could trip their home alarm, they would gladly sneak into AEW's house, put a pillow over its face, and smother it to death. This is one of the key reasons why they're in business with TNA, to use them as a proxy against AEW. Whether it benefits TNA in the long run is really of no concern to them. It's more obvious now than ever before.